Hey everyone, welcome to Adobe Live. I'm Kyle Hamrick. I will be your host, but more importantly, my guest today is a creative director, motion designer who runs her own studio, which means I could probably add like 10 or 15 more titles to that list. She's the founder of Dreck Studio and one of the co-founders of a group called Mothers of Mograph. So in addition to all those other titles, we've got mom in the mix as well, which is, you know, balancing that out is part of what we're going to be talking about here. So I'm super excited to welcome Jennie Davis. How's it
Thank you for
going?
having me.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
I already see a bunch of people getting with us in the chat. A couple names I recognize. And of course, Casey is here, which is fabulous.
Now I'm realizing why I should have turned on the YouTube stream.
Well, I'll keep you up to date on all the important happenings in the chat.
Yeah.
Um, so I guess to that point, we are live here. So you folks in the chat, let us know where you're watching from. Let us know what you do. Are you a designer? Do you motion stuff? Are you motion curious? We're going to be kind of talking about the sort of that bridge of design into motion, and we're going to be showing you some examples of how, but I think we're going to be talking quite a bit about why motion, and also like why do things that are important to you. So, Jennie, I do see we have some of your fan clubs showing up here in the chat, but for folks who don't know you already, can you give us a little bit of what I would call the Cliff Notes, but I believe it's the Coles Notes version up there on your side of the border?
So thank you. Yeah, like you said, I'm up in Ontario in Canada, and I've been running Dreck for the last 3 years. And I'm a motion designer. And I've been working on my own for quite some time now, and looking for the meaning of life, I guess. um and and I found Casey instead. So Casey Smith, my co-founder of Mothers of Mograph, she reached out one day, and just looking for other moms in Mograph, and like the rest is history kind of thing. We connected immediately, and we've built this amazing community, and it's growing every day. So it's really nice to have the opportunity to do that with somebody, and have motion graphics as our banner.
Yeah, and I'm glad you clarified at the end because MoGraph is a term that I've been using for almost 20 years. But I remember one time I used to have that on my business card. I handed it to somebody. They were a normie, obviously, and they said, "What's a MoGraph?"
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of been one of our struggles, because like we love our name, and I'm pretty sure that Casey like messaged me one night at midnight. She's like, "I got our name," and it was an immediate, that's it.
Yeah,
It also spells like mom in the initials, and it was
it's
just
pretty
perfect.
perfect.
Yeah. But we do realize that it causes an issue because not everybody knows what MoGraph is. And also, like, we also want people that are like connected to MoGraph to join our community,
Yeah.
like copywriters, producers, and all that kind of stuff. So that's been a little bit of a struggle to get them to tune into us because of the name.
Maybe we can figure out like another M word and a Y word or something so we can somehow expand the.
Yeah, we had an initials originally on it, was like as and friends, but we very quickly realized that was a different group, and that wasn't the vibe we were going for. So any suggestions are welcome, or just keep, like, if we can just keep on telling them that they're also welcome. We have a lot of copywriters, and there's some voice actors that we have in the group, a lot of producers now. So we are slowly getting to them.
Great. So just a reminder that if you are with us in the chat, please drop any questions that you have for Jennie, or I guess me, but we're here to talk to her. So any questions at all that you have, we'll try to work them into our conversation. I know that we have some actual demos of a few projects that we're going to be going through, but I think we're just going to be having some kind of open conversation about some of this, finding your purpose too. That's a thing that I try to talk about a lot myself. And I think that it really helps You know, when you're doing stuff, you're not just selling widgets with your work, you're doing something that you care about.
Yeah, so I mean, that's kind of what I've been trying to figure out the last few years and trying to build Dreck with that as like a high value system um has kept me like motivated as I go. But definitely Mothers of Mograph has kind of um I don't know,
Become that.
yeah, it's kind of like it's all kind of come together now. So it's it's good.
Good. So I see we've got something open here. What are we looking at?
Yeah, so we were just like this is a project that I was working on for my company. I do a lot of LinkedIn marketing. So I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn sharing my work processes and thoughts about the motion design industry. And I'm always trying to find new ways to kind of highlight my work without um, just, showcasing client work that is not necessarily the work that I want to be putting out into the world. So yeah, this is a project that I was working on for my reel, just kind of explaining what it is we do with explainer videos. And yeah, I just thought this would be a good place to start talking about like the process of being a motion designer. I'm a 2D designer, so all of my work really focuses on really simple shapes and really simple colors, um, which is also a strategy because I run a lot of this on my own, and there's so much time in a day. So I have to figure out how to make really big impacts without spending, countless hours. So
And I
yes.
think that's also a good way to communicate to clients that you can help them do that too. Um,
Yeah, exactly. So it's like a little bit of like showcasing my work, but also like showing my clients like this is what we can do for you, and like you don't have to like reinvent the wheel every time, and like a little bit of animation can go a really long way. It's really, especially on places like social media where nowadays we're seeing a lot of like live reels and influencers and stuff like that, and like taking it back to the basics and having like those little wow factors, I think really elevate brands, and just like motion graphics can really like highlight the parts of your brand like in different ways. It's like
mhm.
it's like a new language, right? So
Yeah. I've been
um
saying a lot that it's, if I'm talking to designers who haven't started doing motion yet, like you can start thinking about time as like another tool in that toolbox, and it's another way to communicate things and create new forms of contrast and hierarchy and stuff like that. That static stuff just doesn't have that.
yeah, and like well, in the age of like kind of like doom scrolling forever, like when something that you think is going to be like a static image suddenly does something a little bit quirky, then it really helps kind of like catch you and
Mhm.
stop that scroll. So this is kind of a way that I like to do it, and I pulled this project up specifically because it's kind of like an insight into the way that I work with the things that I make at Dreck. There's like a whole system that I've built out that we also use in Mothers of Mograph. And it's just an easy way to make assets like quickly, and just like have things that all are already ready to go for like so that you're not spending 2 or 3 hours animating little icons, like they're kind of already done.
Uh,
um yeah.
before we dive into this, I do see a question from Jessica, who I think already knows the answer because she added a winky emoji on here. But what does Drek mean?
Thanks, Jessica. It's like this is like a little I guess it's like a little inside joke of mine. I was trying to be ironic. I don't know. Dreck is a Yiddish word for garbage. It was me being ironic, and also like as creatives, we're we're always telling ourselves we're not good enough, that we're like that our work is not good enough, and all those kind of things. So it was kind of my way of like overcoming like that
Mhm.
imposter syndrome, and so it was like a little bit of a it's like a personal inside joke, I guess.
I like it.
Also, shout out to the first company that I worked with, who also had a Yiddish name for their company. They were called Dreck Studio, and I always just really loved that they kind of incorporated that into their studio. So that's why it's Dreck.
Nice.
um yeah, anyway, so I just kind of wanted to show this project again, like just to show my system a little bit, and also I actually have all of like the entire process in a document as I was working through it. So it's an interesting way to just see like how we go from like the initial idea and right through to the final project. Um
Now let's check out some of these sketches here.
yeah, so it started with you can, I don't know if you can see the thumbnails at the top here, but
Mhm.
like these are my thumbnails. I don't know if you can see that, but they're pretty ridiculous. And it was really just like, it was a thought process in my mind, and I'm like, oh, actually, maybe I can make something out of this. And you can see like the difference in the handwriting when I was trying to figure out like what I could be saying, and then like changing the wording as I go and getting rid of words. I really love typography, and I love when videos have like a like minimal wording with them. So that's kind of what I was going. It was also really just to help me balance out the layouts.
Mhm.
um yeah, so then you can see, so these kind of thumbnails is when I started to think about it. um these two thumbnails at the bottom are from different assets that I had already made for a different project. You can see the correlation there. So I really loved how these came together. And I wanted to make an entire project that was based on these like shapes coming together to make these like weird layouts that I found were a lot of fun to make and animate, and they did create that kind of like um that like wow, not I don't not wow moment, but it definitely made people stop, and they're so bright that you can't really miss them, especially on LinkedIn, where LinkedIn is just it's a lot of text. um so that's kind of how it started, and you can see like I just use thumbnails to really quickly jot down ideas. Because I know this is all going to be in motion, I kind of try to think about how scenes are going to connect to each other. I like to have that at least in a basic sense, to know how like I get from one scene to another before I go into animation, because it can save a ton of time.
Yeah. Yeah,
um
I wanted to point out a couple of those, especially on the right side. You can see that she's drawing the transitions.
yeah.
That's really helpful for just mapping out where you're going. And these can be rough, like you saw in those thumbnails.
Yeah, I mean, thumbnails are just that. They're really quick ideas. Like I don't get too far. Like you can see, I've erased and I've made, and there's like
Mhm.
so many different ideas on one little square. But I kind of play around with it until I have it clear enough in my brain that I can move to the next stage. Um, yeah, so once I kind of get there, I go into creating the style frames. And again, you can see that I'm working through how these are going to animate. Um, One thing I'll note here is that most of these assets I have um, already in my library. So like I mean, I've created hundreds of sets of icons at this point, because I've been in this process of trying to figure out um, like what my brand looks
Mhm.
like. So I create these assets, and really anything that I make for the brand, and it's like check mark, this is going in, goes into the library. And I do the same in my After Effects folder. So anything that gets animated once gets put into like an overarching library, so that I can always pull on it if needed. And
Nice.
it just speeds up the process when you're doing like the same brand over and over and over and again. Um, yeah, so this is this is kind of just laying out. I really loved this grid. I had it on something else, and I'm like, I need to pull this grid in because I love like bullet journaling and stuff like that. And it just, it always just reminds me of like sketching. So I loved it, and I wanted to bring it in. Um, and you can see just like I'm like working through how it's going to go from like the full screen. You can see like it here, and I've got this sort of like tilted line that I use a lot in my animations. So again, like I'm every time I go into animation for this brand, I'm not starting from scratch. I have an idea and I have a language that I'm following. So designing and animating it's just so much quicker. And it really helps me save a lot of time. Sorry, my microphone's in the way of of my thing. So yeah, so like you can see in the end like how it kind of animates, and I'm thinking through all of these things, and you can just see how I go from the thumbnails right through to the end of the animation. Another kind of thing that I always do, because I'm posting all of this on social media, everything is built on squares. And then so I'm not running into issues where I don't have enough space. Like I can just really easily create like different formats and different ratios. You can see the little guide in the middle. I mean, that's my end screen. That's the 16:9. So it's a really big square. So I can move it around. And this doesn't fix all the problems, but and sometimes you need to go in and you need to tweak things, but it definitely saves.
Gets you most of the way.
It gets me like 90% of the way. Sometimes I have to tweak things or move a frame a little bit so that it works, but for the most part, that's how I save time. And then yeah, so I don't know, like I kind of brought everything into this file so that I didn't have to open up a million things, but you can see like all of the animated assets here on the side that I have, and then I can just pull and drop them in. I've got animated frames already that I can use. Again, these are from like that original design that I was telling you about that I wanted to see if I can make it a full video.
That's a good thing to point out. Like, obviously, we saw in Illustrator, you're using a lot of those, um, using like CC libraries and things like
Yeah,
that to create a system for yourself. And in After Effects, you can pull stuff from CC libraries, but you can also save out anything on a single layer as an animation preset. You can save out things as templates that I think we're going to be talking about in a minute. But you can also
yeah.
just save things as their own projects and like mix and match. And um, keeping those pieces for yourself saves you a lot of time.
Yeah, I mean, like, if I mean, I do this for my clients as well. Like, if we're working on, like a full branding project, even if they don't ask me, like, I always kind of collect it in the end in a file because they're going to come back eventually and they're going to ask for something else. And I've already animated this, so I don't like, there's no need to do it twice. So
Or
it's,
or sometimes you can use it for somebody else by changing the
yeah.
color.
Shh. Um, yeah, so like, I have this, nope, not that one. I'll find it in a second. Hang on. This is not my normal file, so bear with me for a
Yeah.
second. Um, yeah, so like you can see, like these are like all the assets that I've already animated that are kind of like ready to go. This is not all of them, but you can see like how I utilize that, and then I use a lot of black, white, and gray because you can use, I forgot what it's called. Help me out here, Kyle. It's not tint, it's the other one.
Tritone, maybe?
Yeah, tritone.
CC
Sorry.
toner if you're getting real crazy, or even
Yeah,
colorama if you
yeah,
are a crazy person who likes a weird
yeah. So I
interface.
just like to like throw that on top, and then I can control the colors. Um, Here I can show you if that's
Yeah, big pro tip. Working especially in After Effects, since it's so procedural, you can just work in black and white and then stack that color on later. So it's very accessible and easy to change and
Yeah.
tie to other things with expressions, however deep you want to go.
I even have it on here. You can see like I changed the colors really quickly here. Sorry, I actually have that animated already, but this is a tritone, so it takes like it uses the three colors of like white, black, and gray. So it's like 100% black, 100% white, and then 50-50. So the highlights are the 100% white, and I can just whatever is that color, I can just switch it. Sorry, it's not on now. There you go. I can just switch it to, and it's going to do like a whole color block on the entire thing. So that's just like an easy way to change color and reuse the assets multiple times. I don't know why I deleted that. I don't need to save this file, but yeah, so that's kind of the way that I work. And I can't do this for every client, but when it's clients that are working within a specific brand or stuff like that, it's to create these systems, not only like keeps them consistent and like continuously speaking their own language, but it saves me time, and that's really, it's really, really beneficial when you're working on your own. See, work smarter.
To that question, or to that point, I see a question from Ray over here, kind of asking about designing your Illustrator document with a view towards moving it to After Effects, which is a bit of its own process. But seeing that you obviously were designing in color over there, are you then kind of stripping that back out before you push it over to After Effects?
Yeah, I'm actually not designing always here in color. You can see like I have documents that have like the full asset sets here. You know what? A lot of my work is trial and error. So when I started building Dreck, this I'll show you like the original, what it originally looked like. So like when I started building it out, I just wanted it to be really clean, really simple.
Mhm.
I kind of landed on these colors after a lot of back and forth. Colors are so hard to come up with the right colors. And honestly, these colors don't always work perfectly together. They're really high saturation. So finding the blend of like that works has been a struggle. But yeah, so like, I building this out, originally it was in color. And then the idea of this was I just started using really, really simple shapes to make different things. And like it started from a circle, and this is where I go. Like it's a brain dump. It's like, oh, actually this can work, this can work, this can work.
I love seeing all
I
your little notes to yourself in here too, like
Yeah, yeah.
establishing brain guidelines, even if you're the only one who is going to read it.
Yeah. I mean, if you need a plan, right?
Yeah.
Again, I'm all about like trying to save time, because, I'm running my own business, and I have Mothers of Mograph, and I have my own family. So like, trying to do all those three things perfectly, you got to find ways to make it work.
And with all that stuff, sometimes you get pulled out of things, not at the times that you would like. So making notes to yourself so that you remember what you're doing, probably
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
helpful.
Yeah, I mean, this doc I made, I think probably about 2 years ago, and every time I kind of get a little bit lost, like I'll come back in here, and sometimes I find things I'm like, oh, that would be fun to animate, like these characters. Like I'm like, I didn't know what to do with them originally, but then I kind of like, oh, I'll animate them, see what happens. And this is really it's just taking really, really simple shapes. Like this is what I'm doing. Basic shapes, no textures, no gradients. Like all of these things take extra time. And everything that took extra time was like a hard no. So that's kind of how I've started to build this out. And so you can
Speaking of
see.
time, we're almost halfway through here already.
Yeah, can I
And
show you the Mothers of Mograph stuff? I
yeah,
think
I was about
yeah.
to make the coolest segue ever.
Yeah,
Um,
but I just
I,
cut that off.
seeing how you have this system for yourself, and then how you're able to apply it to other brands. And I mean, it's even just looking at these is pretty clear to see like how all this works inside your brain, and how then you're presumably able to apply it to client work as well. Um,
Yeah, I mean,
Also, I'll say real quick, I think Mark may enlist you to help figure out some systems for camp
oh,
in the
any
future.
day. I'll happily help
Yeah.
Kim grab any day. Cheers. Um, yeah, so I mean, doing it for yourself and like building your own systems is one thing. But when I met Casey, we had never met before. We quite literally met on LinkedIn and had an hour conversation where we just kind of clicked. And the next day we were branding Mothers of Mograph.
Awesome.
And like doing that, it was midsummer as well, which we learned this year that we need to take summers off because you can't. Anyways, so like learning to create a system like this with somebody else was, I mean, I couldn't have asked for a better partner because she's just so wonderful. But we like there was like this amazing back and forth that we had when we were starting to build out Mothers of Mograph. We had like a very clear idea from the get-go what we wanted it to be. And I think these are some of the references that Casey sent me, but we both loved like that 1950s kitchen thing again, reclaiming
Yeah, kind of turning it
what
on its head.
yeah,
I love
turning it
that.
on its head and like making it something really positive. The screen was like really beautiful, and we kind of had this kind of back and forth. It's like, what if we can make a brand out of this using patterns? So like our process was just like I would do something, I'd send it over, she would do something, she'd send it back over until we kind of landed on Mothers of Mograph. You can see us kind of like moving through like the logo development here, and the final logo could like I feel like it's our like secret story of how our relationship kind of came together, because it really was just like this like you know this perfect like partnership between the two of us. And the end result is like exactly half of her and exactly half of me, so it's kind of like a special thing. So
Awesome.
oh, here's this is Shireen Strasberg. Um, um,
Yeah, because among the variety of things that you're doing with Mothers of Mograph, you're doing like Instagram takeovers,
yeah, so
right?
we do on our Instagram, we started out with doing a lot of like takeovers, so we would like highlight different like mothers in the motion design world. Shireen is one of our first. And she was our model for our templates. And again, we have the same process. We build something out, and as soon as we like it, it goes straight into the library that we both use together. So you can see like we have different templates that we built out already. We've got our color palette, we've got our patterns, like anything that gets kind of like approved by the both of us goes directly into that library so that things go faster. Um, to that point, we kind of realized at some point that this was actually easier to update in Adobe Express. So we made the templates in Adobe Express, and we can just flip out the image, and then we don't have to like redo like the color effects and all that kind of stuff. So it was just throwing it in there. And then yeah, so this is like the same process. We just like this is for our shop that we built. And it's just we create these like really simple templates that we can then animate and make like interesting for that scroll. These are like a couple of different types of posts that we use. So we're just making like an overall like the overall templates that we're going to use, and we can switch them out as we go. And then, like, we can, click between patterns that we've saved, and we create, like, every time we create something, it goes into our project. And then, so we made a store, and the idea is that we want to update it every few months. So I don't have time, and neither does Casey, to start animating new things every day. But we did want to keep it interesting. So we have like this animation, and connected it to a Mogart, which is
Yeah, for
like a
anyone
decoration.
watching, that's a
Yeah.
weird word that another of our insider terms, a
Yeah.
motion graphics template that we cool kids have abbreviated.
Yeah, so thank you. I wasn't really sure how to explain that one. So you can see I've got my library open here. So essentially, all of the things that we wanted to be able to control, we throw into this Mogart. So, like, I can change like the pattern here. Um,
And crucially, you can export this so that someone could update all of this in Premiere without even needing to open After Effects.
right. But because we already work in After Effects,
Right.
we technically don't do that, but we could.
You could.
So we can change, like, the colors. We can, like, we can easily change the colors. We can easily change the text. Whoops. There you go. I don't know why that's off centered, but so, and then we've created it in different ratios so that we can post to different social medias, and they're all connected to the same um, to the same essential graphics panel, so they'll update together. So
Perfect.
yeah.
Do you have the hat set up as a media replacement as well?
Yeah, so the media, so if let me close these things. So you got the replace footage here, down over here. And then we can just throw in different products. This is just actually an image. I think it's just from the website. Of like a mock-up of the hat that we
Yeah,
just
yeah.
got all the directions so they could do the little spin. Yeah, that's our
Casey is saying that you do use a Mogart in Premiere for the podcast promos.
That's true. That's true. Sorry, Casey, you're right. She does. Casey does the podcast graphics, which is why I forgot. Thank you, Casey, for handling that. Yeah, and she's got a setup there that she can export quickly. Yeah. Yeah.
So, we've been kind of talking about Mothers of Mograph here in this project. Do you have any, I don't know, maybe tell us a little bit more about that group and why you felt it was important to form that? I
Yeah.
think you and I met like right as it was coming together, actually.
We met a couple of weeks. I mean, so we met at Dash Bash, which is another great event out in Raleigh, North Carolina. And they do a really good job of being very inclusive. And I remember sitting there, and, like, my fire was being lit, and I remember, like, leaving that conference being like, all right, I need to do, like, all these people are doing these incredible things, and they have, like, these Northern Stars and all of this stuff, and I'm like, I felt like I didn't have a purpose. And Casey showed up, and I mean, this is kind of like working with strong women and female leads has always kind of been part of who I am. But Casey showed up on LinkedIn, and she was just asking almost desperately if there were any other mothers in the industry out there. And we connected, and I was telling her about Dash Bash, and she was telling me about her struggles, and then I was telling her about my struggles and all of these things, and things just kind of fell into place. And I think that as mothers, not even as mothers, as freelancers in general, or people that work from home, being isolated is a really common theme. So finding your people, or, like Mark likes to say, finding your tribe, or doesn't like to say, um, is really important. And Casey and I, we really believe in this, and it's really not. So Mothers of Mograph obviously is for mothers in our industry, but we're not here to say one way is better than the other, or you must have kids or whatever. We're just trying to share a perspective and make it known to the motion graphics community that something's a little bit broken in the way that we work. And not just for moms, for dads, for people without children, like for, the expectation when you're working with some clients that you are on call 21 hours a day, or agencies that are saying we need this now and all that kind of stuff. Like, we just wanted to highlight that actually we're humans first, and we have,
And should be.
yeah, and we have other other things that are important to us, and it can't always be about work. So I think part of Mothers of Mograph is like, we're really just trying to like highlight those flaws in the industry, and the things that aren't working, from our perspective. And I think, for a very long time, Casey and I talk about this a lot, that we heard like a very common thread of like either or. So like, you either have kids or you have a good career. And we're just trying to say, like, no, that's not, nobody should tell you whether or not having children is your choice. Like, it's your choice, right? So, or hopefully for the most part. Yeah, like, we are just trying to shine a light on, that it about on the women that are doing it, and the dads too. I mean, we've had a lot of dads come through, through Mothers of Mograph. We just did a podcast for Father's Day with some dads that joined us, for a really nice conversation. So yeah, that's Mothers of Mograph. We've got a Slack channel, that we really welcome mothers and mothers to be, or mothers to thinking of being, to join us in conversations. And it's the place where, I feel most at home in the industry. And it's like, it's like-minded people, and it's people that think like me and do what I do and don't judge me for whatever. They get it. And I think that's kind of like the power of finding your tribe, which is why you go to events like Mograph.
Yeah, the availability of all these online communities, has been huge. I've been doing this long enough that most of them didn't exist when I was starting my
Yeah,
career, which was really hard.
yeah,
And being able to connect with other folks, all over the world that have similar situations,
yeah,
as you, and I've talked with a lot of folks, around the planet, mostly in motion design. And I know, there's people that live in countries where there's almost no motion scene, and I know they feel very isolated. Um, and these online communities are great, but also, like, being able to actually be in the same physical space as other people and just have the ability to, yeah, just be yourself, and not like, having a Zoom conversation is very different. It's very sort of structured.
yeah.
And it's, being able to go to in-person events and just run into people and have those serendipitous things that lead to, all kinds of
Adobe
fun
Live,
stuff like this.
yeah.
Yeah. It's, yeah. Obviously it's a luxury to be able to, travel to those and to be able to afford to go to them and all that. But
Absolutely.
it is really, really important, I think.
I think, though, like, to your point, there are a lot more these days, than there used to be. And again, like, when I was starting out, I don't know if I wasn't like connected enough, or I didn't know about them, but there definitely weren't as many as there are now. And like, they are popping up, you know, all over the place. There's quite a few in Europe already. There's a lot happening in the States. We have some in Toronto that are not completely motion related, but they're like
Mhm.
design related.
And it's
So
it's good to get outside of your just your like super tight little group sometimes too.
yeah, I think it's like really like it's like really freeing, right? It leads to really interesting thought processes, like the same as like, Dash Bash kind of led me down this like fire route and finding my purpose, which led down to creating Mothers of Mograph, and then, going to Camp Mograph and being able to connect with all of those people and connect with you, which kind of led down to this. So, not that I'm trying to get anything other than human interaction from these events, but
It
they're
tends to work itself out. When
yeah.
you are just a human with other humans, like
Yeah. It's crazy how that happens.
yeah.
Connections.
As we're kind of coming in, we have about 15 minutes left here. So just a reminder, if you have any questions that you want us to cover, either about the stuff we're talking about or about any of the work that you've been seeing or other stuff on either, Dreck's pages or Mothers of Mograph, just let us know. Um, Jenny, do you have any? I feel like I can see an Instagram peeking out behind all of your stuff. Do you have some of the finished animations of some of the stuff
Yeah,
that
for
we've been
sure.
seeing here?
That's my website. Oops, sorry, that's the After Effects folder. Um, so yeah, so like this is like one of the that's the finished product of the Mogurt that we did. You can see just easily switching between
Mhm. And you have
things.
all those patterns like pre-animated, and those are just
Yeah,
possible too.
so I mean, the Mothers of Mograph is a work in process. So like we haven't really had time to sit down and animate everything. But again,
Mhm.
like once we animate, so the thing that I like about patterns is that I don't remember when Adobe switched like their shape layer, like how the shapes, it used to be different. I don't remember when they changed it. Um, but since they did, it's like my favorite tool in After Effects. It's just
I
because
love
they're just so easy to animate. And so patterns are really just one asset.
as a
And
shape
then,
layer nerd, I love seeing you twirl that open and having a bunch of stuff inside one shape layer, which
yeah.
is the best way to do it.
Yeah, there's so many. Yeah, I mean, okay, so I don't know if you use this, but I use Explode Shape Layers
Yep,
by Zach Levitt. So I mean
top five.
also, sorry, Levitt. Would I say it wrong? Sorry. Um, but it basically allows me to kind of like group shapes as well. So like I sometimes I can like animate them on their own layer and then I'll bring them all in together. But it really is, and I can just like I just animate like one thing. It's just so simple.
Yep.
But then create like adding repeaters. It makes it feel like the whole thing is animated. So that's kind of like a, another way of saving time is creating assets that are easily animatable and like with minor tweaks and big impact. What was your question about that one?
I don't know what my question was. I'm just
I don't remember
enjoying us
either.
poking around in here.
Yeah, I mean I can poke around.
Oh, I
um
think I was just kind of asking if you had those set up.
yeah, so I do.
I sort
Yeah,
of envisioned
that's
like a drop down or something with a handful
yeah.
of patterns in it.
So these are like this is like the main pattern layer. Sorry, it's not going to work now because I have it set up with this. Hang on. So if I scroll, there you go. You can
Mhm.
see the different patterns. That's a bad color for
Cool.
that pattern. Um, yeah. So you can see like it's all set up. So basically the essential graphic is turning on layers and off layers. You can see the opacity. The pattern is connected to the opacity. So it's like when it goes to 1, 2, or 3, it will turn on each layer. And then once we do more animations and we do more patterns, I can just easily throw them into this comp and create more. And it's going to update automatically. I would say that this file, like we didn't create originally. But like as we started posting more and more, like I started to see like this is going to be a
Yeah, you
time,
start realizing you're doing the same thing, and yeah,
a
this
million
is
times.
worth a little bit of hassle. Real
Yeah.
quick, for folks who maybe haven't dealt with the Essential Graphics panel before or building a motion graphics template, this may look like a lot, but ultimately all you're doing is just finding the properties that you want to expose and just drop them in there.
Yeah, they're the Mogarts like they're really simple to set up. It's like you're just like dragging and dropping. With this kind of thing, when it's different, like when it's like turning on and off layers, you have to do like some like very simple expressions, like it's like
Yeah.
an if then kind of value. I think I can't remember what I said, how I set it up. But there's plenty of tutorials online, like Premiere Gal, she's really great
Yep.
at explaining how mobiles work. You guys on Hotline.
Yep.
Um,
Evan and I have had
yeah,
we
you've
talk
done
about this
them.
stuff all the time because we're both
Yeah.
expressions nerds.
Yeah, which I'm gonna give you like a little, like I told you this before, but like this animation with this little squiggly line, every time I make it, I think of Evan because he has a like a cute little tutorial that he does. He explains how to make them. So yeah, tutorials are great. You know,
Yeah,
even
and that's a great
even
thing
when
to
you
point out.
know,
Like if you find something like that that's going to be useful in a lot of places, like just keep reusing it. It's just like pulling symbols or library elements or whatever. Whatever works for you to help keep things doable. Because ultimately, we all only have so much time in the day, and as we've been talking about, a lot of times, like using that time for things that are actually important to you instead of rebuilding squiggles,
yes.
probably the better approach.
Yeah, yeah, and here this is the other regret that Casey built. So she can switch these out, and she's got the text
Nice.
coming in automatically. She's got that all set up. And see, they're like it's just keeping us consistent, right? So
Mhm.
saving time and staying within our same language. You can see different versions of the shop here.
Which is
Um,
exactly the kind of stuff that most clients are looking for their social medias as well. So,
right.
if you're working for a brand and you're watching this, like these are the kinds of systems you should be using to save yourself time. And um, if you're on salary, maybe that means you get a little time to relax every day. I don't know.
Yeah. They'll find some way to occupy
Yeah.
you, but um um yeah, so these are some of the, like I was making some like carousels. I was talking with I'm on LinkedIn a lot, so there's a lot of people on LinkedIn that were using carousels for like static carousels, and they
Mhm.
were having a lot of success. And I'm like, well, I'm an animator and I can use the same theory to get my point across.
Yeah. Let's do that, but
Um,
better.
but yeah, and like not, and you can see this is like a really, really simple scroll. Like there's nothing, I've done nothing special here. Like, I've animated a couple of icons, but it's nothing too crazy. And like this whole animation, because I have it in a template and I can make them really quickly. Not that one.
The thing I like about things like animated carousels too is you are in control. Like you're
Yeah.
not relying on the person to click through. Like once you kind of said this earlier, but once they see that little bit of movement, it catches their eye, and now they're kind of invested and they want to see what the rest of the story is, right?
Yeah. The trick is like trying to get it to be short enough and like not too quick.
Yeah.
Um, I'm sure there are people that use being too quick as like a strategy because then they have to like rewatch it. But
Oh, I've got opinions about some of the things the young people are
yeah.
doing on the TikToks these days.
Yeah. I just get really frustrated and turn it off. But yeah, again, like you can see like they're all the same. Like they all have
Mhm.
this, like that's the line that I was telling you about that I have, like I
Yeah.
use the same animation, it's the same thing. I'm keeping my language the same. People recognize me really quickly. The colors are helpful because they're so bright that it's kind of hard to miss. And then it kind of allows me to make very simple animations. and but they'll add something to somebody else's scroll, right? So if, here I'm like explaining about a process, so I'm just like about different types of animation and things like that. So little self-promotion there as well. So yeah, these are all built out into templates, and animating them doesn't take me long because they're almost completely pre-animated for me.
Yeah,
Um,
and you're obviously reusing them. I'm seeing some of these little doodads that
yeah,
like the little diamond that's a background
yeah,
element here, but it's one of the hero elements in one of the
yeah,
other pieces and stuff. So
yeah,
yeah, that's a good thread through all of this. Like, just keep in mind that anything you've built, you can probably reuse it in a bunch of other ways, especially if you know, resize it, recolor it.
yeah. And there's, having the assets, all already ready to go, and being able to switch them out between the 19 by 16 and the 4 by 5s and 1 by 1s, like, again, it's just, it saves you time, and it helps you use the same thing but not feeling like you're always using the same elements.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Awesome. Well, I feel like we're pretty close to the end of the show here. We can probably kind of start landing this plane. I do see we've had Leah talking about some stuff in the chat here, and I don't know if she's already a part of Mothers of Mograph, but it sounds like she should probably, if not, you may be getting a new contact. I feel like
So
that would be a perfect
here,
match.
I'll just show everybody this so that they know. If you go to mothersofmograph.com, you can come in and you can join our Slack community, and you can find all of our links there as well. So that's where you want to go, Leah, if you're not already part of our group.
So as we're right up here at the end, I don't know, what's next for you, or do you have any sort of parting words of wisdom for other folks who are maybe 10 years behind you, or younger version of yourself, or any of that kind of stuff?
I would say find your people, both for to work with and to work for. I think that's really important to stay grounded and motivated, and try not to overthink things, and create some sort of a process and a system that's going to help you do things. Yeah, like, we do a lot of like personal projects and stuff like this. So I guess building out Mothers of Mograph and building out Dreck is a bit of like my personal project, and
Mhm.
doing something that I really love.
But you're also, as part of that, you're able to do something that is helpful for other people and good
Yeah,
for the world. So
yeah,
I've been fortunate to find a few things that work like that for me too. So hopefully, all of you watching can find a way to use your creative skills to do something that actually matters for the world. That's kind of the ideal, right?
yeah, yeah. Finding
Uh,
something that has a bit more meaning.
yeah, very much agree. Um, well, let's see. We probably still have like 90 seconds left here. What can we say? What's your dream project?
My dream project is Mothers of Mograph, making that a reality. So anybody listening, let's do that.
I love it. Like somebody listening who wants to just give you like millions of dollars.
Millions of dollars.
Yeah,
I'm not
perfect.
asking for a lot, just a little bit of cash to help me in case you
Well,
have.
you never know. Maybe that person's watching today or later.
Well, other things have happened when I jokingly said things.
We
So
we manifested this Adobe Live session just by
manifested it.
talking about it. So,
Yeah. So
all right. Well, Jenny, it's been so great getting to do this, and the couple talks that we had like leading up to this as well. I really love talking to you, and I'm glad that we've intersected a couple times here. Um, Seems like we've had a lot of good conversation in the chat, a lot of encouraging stuff from folks. Yeah, I don't know. Thanks so much for being here, and thanks everybody for watching. We have a couple other things coming up on Adobe Live this afternoon. And you can see me again tomorrow morning with Evan Abrams on Motion Design Hotline. Jenny, where can people find you?
They can find me at dreckstudio.com or jenniedavis.ca.
CA for
Mothers of Mograph.
awesome.
Yeah, well, thanks, Kyle.
That's what I'm here for. Okay, we'll shut it down with that. Thank you so much, everybody. Jennie, thanks again for being here. See you next time, whatever that means. Tomorrow morning, other times.